Hello everyone! I hope you've had a great day so far. I've had a very chill morning. I've done a lot of editing today and I did a lot of prep for the stream. So today we are doing another reading stream. I'm going to be reading some more Norse mythology, which I'm very excited about. I've got my book here, and as you can see, I've got quite a few notes now. After last stream, I decided to go ahead and do a bit of research and checking of pronunciations and stuff like that, because I do struggle with stuff like that. So now I have little notes on certain things, and I feel like there's nothing better than a well-loved book with notes in it. Maybe it's my old English literature brain just liking all the colourful notes and stuff. But yes, how is everyone today? I hope you're all doing really well. It's warmer today, thankfully. I'm so happy. I have been freezing in this room, but thankfully it's a little bit warmer. I have got a nice warm jumper on today, which is good. I also decided to forego the cat ears today. I'm a human today. Just a human. Definitely nothing strange about that. No. But yes, so today we are going to be reading some more Norse myths, and we are going to be reading Before the Beginning and After, which in a sense is the Norse explanation for the beginning. Just as you said, the Bible has the beginning with the creation of Earth from God, and other religions and stuff like that have their version. This is the Norse mythology version, their idea of how it all began and how the gods began, which is very interesting, and it's very weird, but I kind of love it, that it's so strange. I like it a lot. But yes, we're going to be reading the Before the Beginning and After, and then after that, if we've got enough time and my voice holds up, we'll be reading Idrisil and the Nine Worlds, which is a bit more about the world of Norse mythology, about the different planets and different realms that make up the Nine Realms. Oh, but yes, we should jump right into it. Getting to my reading position. There we go. I put chill music on, so I hope everything's good. We don't have any weird songs playing, but you know. But at some point I'll make an actual playlist for my reading streams that are all appropriate songs. But at the moment, we'll deal with what I have. But yes. So again, apologies for any mispronunciations or if I stutter over anything. I do have a quite prominent stutter, as you guys can probably tell, but I try very hard to pronounce everything as it should be. Of course, I don't have a Nordic or accent of any kind, so I'm obviously going to mispronounce a few little things in my very Yorkshire accent. So yes, we should get right to it. Before the Beginning and After. Before the beginning, there was nothing. No earth, no heavens, no stars, no sky. Only the mist world, formless and shapeless, and the fire world, always burning. To the north was Niflheim, the dark world. Here, 11 poisonous rivers cut through the mists, each springing from the same well at the centre of it all, the roaring maelstrom called Hivelcum. Niflheim was colder than cold, and the murky mist that cloaked everything hung heavily. The skies were hidden by the mist, and the ground was clouded by the chilly fog. To the south was Mudspell. Mudspell was fire. Everything there glowed and burned. Mudspell was light, where Niflheim was grey, molten lava, where the mist world was frozen. The land was aflame, with roaring heat of blacksmith's fire. There was no solid earth, no sky. nothing but sparks and spurts of heat, molten rock and burning embers. In Mudspell, at the edge of the flame, where the mist burns into light, where the land ends, stood Sutir, who existed before the gods. He stands there now. He holds a flaming sword, and the bubbling lava and the freezing mists are there one to him. It is said that at Ragnarok, which is the end of all the world, and only then will Sutir leave his station. He will go forth from Mudspell with his flaming sword, and he will burn the world with fire, and one by one the gods will fall before him. Between Mudspell and Niflheim was a void, an empty place of nothingness without form. The rivers of mist world flowed into the void, which was called Ginnungagap, of the Yawning Gap. Over time, beyond measure, 3 poisonous rivers in the region between fire and mist slowly solidified into huge glaciers. The ice in the north of the void was covered in frozen fog and pellets of hail, but to the south, where the glaciers reached the land of fire, and the embers and the sparks from Mudspell melted the ice, and the warm winds from the flame lands made the air above the ice as gentle and comfortable as a spring day. Where the ice and the fire met, the ice melted, and in the melting waters life appeared, the likeness of a person bigger than the worlds, huger than any giant there will be or has ever been. This was neither male nor female, but was both at the same time. This creature was the ancestors of all giants, and it called itself Ylmir. Ymir was not the only living thing to be formed by the melting of ice. There was also a hornless cow, more enormous than this mind could hold. She licked the salty blocks of ice for food and for drink, and the milk that ran from her 4 udders flowed like rivers. It was this milk that nourished Ymir. The giant drank the milk and grew. Ymir called the cow Aldumla. The cow's pink tongue licked people from blocks of ice. The first day only a man's hair, the second his head, and the third day the shape of a whole man was revealed. This was Brundi, the ancestors of the gods. Ymir slept, and while it slept, it gave birth. A male and female giant were born from beneath Ymir's left arm, a 6-headed giant born from its leg. From these, Ymir's children, all giants, are descended. Bure took a wife among these giants, and they had a son, who they called Bor. Bor married Bestla, giant of the goddess. And together they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve. Odin and Vili and Ve, the 3 sons of Bor, grew into manhood. They saw as they grew, far off, the flames of Mudspell and the darkness of Niflheim, but they knew that each place would be the death of them. The brothers were trapped, forever in Gundigir Gap, the vast gap between the fire and the mist. They might as well have been nowhere. There was no sea, and no sand, no grass nor rocks, nor soil, nor trees, nor sky, nor stars. There was no world, no heaven, and no earth at that time. The gap was nowhere, only an empty place waiting to be filled with life and with existence. It was time for the creation of everything. Vi and Vili and Odin looked at each other and spoke of what was needed to be done. There, in a void of Gungingap, they spoke of the universe and of life and of the future. Odin and Vili and Ve killed the giant Ymir. It had to be done. There was no other way to make the worlds. This was the beginning of all things, and the death that made all life possible. They stabbed the great giant. Blood gushed from Ymir's corpse in unimaginable quantities. Fountains of blood as salty as the sea, and grey as the oceans gushed out of it in a flood so sudden, so powerful, and so deep that it swept away and drowned all the giants. Only one giant, Bergulmir, Ymir's grandson, and his wife survived by clambering onto a wooden box which bore them like a boat. All the giants we see and fear today are descended from these. Odin and his brothers made the soil from Ymir's flesh. Ymir's bones they piled into mountains and cliffs. Our rocks and pebbles, the sand and gravel you see, these were Ymir's teeth, and the fragments of bones that were broken and crushed by Odin and Vili and Ve in their battle with Ymir. The sea that girdles the world, these were Ymir's blood and his sweat. Look up into the sky. You are seeing the inside of Ymir's skull. The stars you see at night, the planet, the comets and the shooting stars, they are all the sparks that flew from the fires of Mudspell. And the clouds you see, these once were Ymir's brains, and who knows what thoughts they are thinking, even now. The world is a flat disk, and the sea encircles the perimeter. Giants live at the edge of the world, besides the deepest seas. To keep the giants at bay, Odin and Vili and Ve made a wall from Ymir's eyelashes and set it around the middle of the world. They called the place within the wall Midgard. Midgard was empty. The lands were beautiful, but nobody walked the meadows or fished in the clear waters. Nobody explored the mountains or stared up at the clouds. Odin and Vili and Ve knew that a world is not a world until it is inhabited. They wandered high and low, looking for people, and they found nothing. At last, on the rocky shingles at the edge of the world, they found 2 logs, sea-tossed, that had floated there on the tides and been cast ashore. The first log was a log of ash wood. The ash tree is resilient and handsome, and its roots grow deep. Its wood carves well and will not split or crack. Ash wood makes a good tool handle or the shaft of a spear. The second log they found, beside the first on the beach, so close to the first log that they were almost touching, was a long elm wood. The elm tree is graceful, but the wood is hard, enough to be made into the toughest planks and beams. You can build a fine home or a hall from elm wood. The gods took the 2 logs. They set the logs so that they were upright on the sand, the height of people. Odin held them, and one by one he breathed life into them. No longer were they dead logs on a beach. They were now alive. Vili gave them will. He gave them intelligence and drive. Now they could move, and they could want. V carved the logs. He gave them shapes of people. He carved their ears so they may hear, and their eyes so they might see, and their lips so they may speak. The 2 logs stood on the beach, 2 naked people. They carved one of them with male genitalia, and the other carved female. The 3 brothers made clothes for the women and the man to cover themselves, to keep them warm in the chilly sea spray on the beach at the edge of the world. The last of all, they gave the 2 people they had made names. The man they called Ask, or Ash Tree, and the woman they called Embla, or Elm. Ask and Embla were the father and mother of us all. Every human being owes its life to its parents and their parents before that. Go far back enough, and the ancestors of us all were Ask and Embla. Embla and Ask stayed in Midgard, safe behind the walls the gods have made from Ymir's eyelashes. In Midgard, they would make their homes, protected from giants and monsters and all the dangers that waited in the wastes. In Midgard, they could raise their children in peace. That is why Odin is called the All-Father, because he's the father of the gods, and because he breathed life into our grandparents' grandparents. Whether we are gods or mortal, Odin is the father of us all. And that was before the beginning and after. It's a very interesting story. I find it very inspirational in a weird way. The idea that everyone comes from the same place is obviously something that most religions and philosophies kind of come from, as well as just scientific fact. Everyone came from the same things. But I like the idea that there's so much more story in this version, and that there's this genderless item at the beginning of the universe, that we're all one thing, there's no separation until later on when someone decides to make that. I think it's very, very interesting. Also the idea that the whole world is made from one thing, one person, a giant, that everything we see was made from that, and that it came from a death, that the beginning had to begin with a death, and that in the cycle everyone dies and returns to the earth. It's a very pagan thing, a very, I guess, original idea. A lot of older religions kind of take that idea that life is circular and that we all eventually go back to where we came from, which is the earth. Which is, you know, a bit sad to think about today, but also I think it's something you should be very comforted by. I'm quite comforted by it. That's why pagan religions are easier for me to understand than anything else. But yes, that was before the beginning and after. I'm just gonna have a quick drink so my throat doesn't close up. The next one is Idrisil and the 9 Worlds. The ash tree Idrisil is a mighty ash tree, the most perfect and beautiful of all trees, also the largest. It grows between the 9 worlds and joins them, each to each. It is the biggest of all the trees there are, and the finest. The tops of its branches are above the sky. It is so large that the roots of the ash are in 3 worlds, and it is fed by 3 wells. The first root, and the deepest, goes into the underworld, to Niflheim, to the place that existed before all other places. In the centre of the dark world is the ever-churning spring, Hivalgim, so loud it's like a roaring kettle, and the dragon Nidhogg lives in these waters, and it's always gnawing at the roots from below. The second root goes to the realm of the frost giants, to the well that belongs to Mimir. There is an eagle who waits at the highest branch of the world tree, who knows many things, and a hawk who perches between the eagle's eyes. A squirrel, Ratatog, lives in the branches of the world tree, takes gossip and messages from Nidhogg, the dreaded corpse eater, to the eagle and back again. The squirrel tells lies to both of them, and takes joy in provoking anger. There are 4 stags who graze on the huge branches of the world tree, devouring the foliage and the bark. There are uncountable snakes at the base of the tree, biting at the roots. The world tree can be climbed. It is from this tree that Odin hanged himself in sacrifice, making the world tree a gallows, and himself the gallows god. The gods do not climb the world tree. They travel between the worlds using Bifrost, the rainbow bridge. Only the gods can travel on the bridge. It would burn the feet of any frost giant or troll who attempted to clamber up to reach Asgard. These are the 9 worlds. Asgard, the home of the Aesir. This is where Odin makes his home. Alfheim, where the light elves live. The light elves are beautiful as the sun or the stars. Niflheim, which is sometimes called Sartalvim, where the dwarves, also known as dark elves, live. Beneath the mountain they build their remarkable creations. Midgard, which is the world of women and men, the world in which we make our homes. Jotunheim, where the frost giants and the mountain giants wander and live and have their halls. Vanaheim, where the Vanir live. The Aesir and the Vanir are gods, united by peace treaties, and many Vanir gods live in Asgard with the Aesir. Niflheim, the mist world. Mudspell, the world of flame where Satyr waits. And then there is the place named after its ruler, Hel, where the dead go. Hel, where the dead go who did not die bravely in battle. The last roots of the world tree go into a spring in the home of the gods, to Asgard, where the Aesir make their home. Each day the gods hold their council here, and it is here they will gather in the last days of the world, before they set out for the final battle of Ragnarok. It is called the Well of Urd. There are 3 sisters, the Norns, who are wise maidens. They tend to the well, and they make sure the roots of Idrisil are covered with mud and cared for. The well belongs to Urd. She is fate and destiny. She's your past. With her is Verdin. Her name means becoming, and hers is the present. And Skuld, whose name means that which is intended, and her domain is the future. The Norns will decide your fate and what happens in your life. There are other Norns, not just those 3. Giant Norns and elf Norns and dwarf Norns and Vanir Norns, good Norns and bad Norns, and what your fate will be decided by. Some Norns give people good lives, and others give us hard lives, or short lives, twisted lives. They will shape your fate, there, at Urd's Well. I love that one. I think, in a way, the Norse mythology is one of the best stories and the best storytelling. They know how to tell a good story, which I don't think it's an offence to say that the Norse mythology are stories, because that's what they love to do. They love to tell stories and to figure out how the world began by telling these stories from person to person. And they did such a good job at making you believe in these things because it all makes sense in the way they tell it. Of course there are 3 sisters who decide your fate. Of course there are these different realms with these different people. Of course Odin is the god of all, and of course he would live in Asgard. It all makes sense. It all comes together, and it's such a good story. I do love it. I also I like the Idrisil being like called the world tree or the tree of life a lot of the time, and it's a symbol that you might see. I actually have a pendant with Idrisil on. It's in the pagan beliefs as well. There's always the tree of life, and that's taken from Idrisil. I have a few different versions of it. I've got this one which is more of a pagan one with a pentagram and a protection sigil. But yeah, you see a lot of the time, if you see the tree, it's Idrisil, it's the tree of life, it's the world tree, it's the thing that keeps everyone together, which is very poetic. It's the tree that holds the entire world in its hands, which would be in what other people might think, the heaven and the earth and hell and the in-between. I love it. I love Norse mythology, as you can probably tell as I keep reading more and more stories. Should I read another one? We went quite quickly through these ones. They're quite short, those. I could read. Could read the players, which explains, it tells you about the 3 main gods that we know about the most in that sense, which are Odin, Thor, and Loki, which I guess are the most popular of the gods in modern era because of things like Marvel and how they have been portrayed in Marvel. Obviously, some of it's accurate and some of it's not to the original. But in a way, that's kind of how it goes. You interpret these things into new forms, and that's how storytelling happens. Obviously, the way that the gods were originally portrayed has changed over time due to retelling, due to changes by the Catholic Church, among other things. Things get rewritten and retold so many times that sometimes you lose the original, which is sad, but also how time works. So yeah, I think I'll read the players. I haven't done a pre-read of this today, so I might mispronounce a few names, but we'll go for this. We've only done half an hour, so I think one more story, then to save my voice I'll stop for the day. Okay, so this is the players. Any gods or goddesses are named in Norse mythology. You will meet quite a few of them in these pages. Most of the stories we have, however, concern two gods, Odin and his son Thor, and Odin's blood brother, a giant son called Loki, who lives with the Aesir in Asgard. Odin. The highest and oldest of all the gods is Odin. Odin knows many secrets. He gave an eye for wisdom. More than that, for knowledge of runes and for power, he sacrificed himself to himself. He hung from the world tree, Idrisil, hung there for 9 nights. His side was pierced by the point of a spear, which wounded him gravely. The winds clutched at him, buffeted his body as it hung. Nothing did he eat for 9 days and 9 nights, nothing did he drink. He was alone there, in pain, the light of his life slowly going out. He was cold, in agony, and at the point of death, when his sacrifice bore dark fruit. In the ecstasy of his agony, he looked down, and the runes were revealed to him. He knew them, and he understood them and their power. The rope broke then, and he fell, screaming, from the tree. Now he understood magic. Now the world was his to control. Odin has many names. He's the All-Father, the Lord of the Slain, the Gallows God. He's the god of cargoes and of prisoners. He is called Grimhilm the Third. He has different names in every country, for he's worshipped in different forms in many tongues, but it is always Odin they worship. He travels from place to place in disguise, to see the world as people see it. When he walks among us, he does so as a tall man, wearing a cloak and a hat. He has 2 ravens, whom he calls Hugin and Munin, which are thought and memory. These birds fly back and forth across the world, seeking news and bringing Odin all the knowledge of things. They perch on his shoulder and whisper into his ears. When he sits on the high throne, he observes all things, wherever they may be. Nothing can be hidden from him. He brought war into the world. Battles are begun by throwing a spear at the hostile enemy, dictating the battle and its deaths to Odin. If you survive in the battle, it is with Odin's grace, and if you fall, it is because he has betrayed you. If you fall bravely in the war, Valkyries, beautiful battle maidens who collect the souls of the noble dead, will take you and bring you to the hall known as Valhalla. He will wait for you there, in Valhalla, and there you will drink and feast and fight and battle with Odin as your leader. Thor. Thor, Odin's son, is the Thunderer. He is straightforward where his father is cunning, good-natured where his father is devious. Huge he is, and red-bearded, and strong, by far the strongest of all the gods. His might is increased by the belt of strength. His might is increased by his belt of strength. Where he wears it, his strength is doubled. Thor's weapon is Mjolnir, a remarkable hammer, forged for him by the dwarves. A story you will learn. Trolls and frost giants and mountain giants all tremble when they see Mjolnir, for it has killed so many of their brothers and friends. Thor wears iron gloves, which help him grip the hammer's shaft. Thor's mother was Jord, the earth goddess. Thor's son are Modin, the angry, and Magin, the strong. Thor's daughter is Third, the powerful. His wife is Sif of the golden hair. She had a son, Url, before she married Thor, and Thor is Url's stepfather. Url is a god who hunts with a bow and with arrows, and he's the god of skis. Thor is the defender of Asgard and of Midgard. There are many stories about Thor and his adventures. You will encounter some of them here. Loki. Loki is very handsome. He's plausible, convincing, likeable, and far and away the most wily, subtle and shrewd of all the inhabitants of Asgard. It is a pity, then, there is such darkness inside of him, so much anger, so much envy, so much lust. He's the son of Laufey, who's known as Narl, or Needle, because she was so slim and beautiful and sharp. His father was said to be Fottabur, a giant, whose name means he who strikes dangerous blows. Fottabur was dangerous as his name. Loki walks in the skies with shoes that fly, and he can transform his shape so he looks like other people, and can change into animal form. But his real weapon is his mind. He's more cunning, subtler, trickier than any god or giant. Not even Odin is as cunning as Loki. Loki is Odin's blood brother. The other gods do not know where Loki came from, or to Asgard, or how. He's Thor's friend, and his betrayer. He is tolerated by the gods, perhaps because his stratagem and plans save them so often from getting them into trouble. Loki makes the world more interesting, but less safe. He is the father of monsters, the author of woes, the sly god. Loki drinks too much, and he cannot guard his words or thoughts or his deeds when he drinks. Loki and his children will be there for Ragnarok at the end of everything, and it will not be on the side of the gods of Asgard that they will fight. That was the players. Gives you an insight into the most notable gods, or the most known gods. I have to say, it's not a surprise that Loki is my favourite god. At least one of them. Loki is definitely one of my favourites, and Frigga, Frey, who else? Idun. I think that's some of my favourites. Just because their stories are quite interesting, and them as gods are quite interesting. Which I might get to eventually, reading through. I've read quite a few now. Obviously there's a lot more to go. I think I'm going to leave it there today, because my voice is going a little bit. But I will be back again next week, same time, reading more stories. I think this time I will be reading a different story, a short story, but we will see. I need to choose which short story I'm going to do. I might do Edgar Allan Poe, I might do The Raven, perhaps, I'm not sure. I'll figure that out. But yes, next time I'll be reading a short story. We might round off with one of the Norse myths. But yes, thank you for coming to today's stream. It's a short one, but Wednesday's always nice and comfy, short streams. And I hope you enjoyed. I will be live tomorrow evening, and I will be playing Minecraft? Question mark? Can't remember my own stream schedule. Yeah, Minecraft. Minecraft tomorrow, as always. And I'll be getting on with the most important things in Minecraft, which is building, because it is the most important things. But yes, thank you for coming to today's stream. Hope you liked it, and goodbye!